G'day everyone, I'm artist Wayne Dowsent and welcome to my Anzac portrait series. I do apologise for the racket that you can hear outside. There's a million cicadas in our backyard. But beside me is a portrait of a young Charles Gilmore Wallace, and recently Jackie and I interviewed 98-year-old World War II veteran Charles. This is part one of his story. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Charles Gilmore Wallace.
I would like to introduce myself. My name is Charles Gilmore Wallace, and I was born in Grafton Street, Woollahra in Sydney. I was the eldest of 4 children by my mother's first marriage. My mother was born and educated in the New England district of New South Wales, where her family were mainly involved in sheep raising and crop growing. My father came from England, and apparently, from what we can make out of his life, there were 3 of them came out to England, 3 young fellows, and they landed at Perth and worked as clerks with the gold mining industry in Kalgoorlie. Then later they moved from there they went over to Tasmania, and they worked in the Mount Lyell mine over there. He eventually came to Melbourne, where he married for the first time, and unfortunately lost his first wife at childbirth, and then came on to Sydney, where he met my mother and married, and from that union there was myself and my sister Ferna, my brother Ray, and my younger sister Lorna. We moved from Grafton Street in Woollahra to Wellington Street, Bondi, and that was where most of our youth was spent. This was the start of the Depression period, and money was always a factor with that. And if we wanted anything, we had to find ways and means of getting the money. So one of the reasons we found was that my brother and I used to go down to Bondi Beach, and there were always a lot of empty soft drink bottles left around. Now, they used to pay a penny a bottle for these. We would go and collect these and cash them in at the kiosk on the beach, and then my brother and I used to then go down to Rose Bay, and there by this time we'd saved 2 and 6 pence, and for that price we could hire a boat for the afternoon, a rowing boat. So we used to go out rowing round Rose Bay. The other thing that we used to do at that stage was we go around to another part of Rose Bay where the water was very shallow, and you could go out into the bay for about 200 metres and still be no more than waist deep. But the beauty of going down there, we could go down and in an afternoon we get a sugar bag full of blue swimmer crabs, and the blue swimmer crabs on your diet was quite a treat in those days. And we used to take those home. We were living at a place called Moore Street, Bondi at that particular stage, and we would go up there and go down to Bondi, get a couple of buckets of seawater, and then come and cook the crabs in that. Then he and I had the job of removing the carapace and breaking the legs off it, so you had one plate with the pockets of flesh from the crab, and the other was the legs and legs. And at that stage, the place we lived in was a two-storey place and the roof was flat. We used to get up there enjoying the sunshine of the day, and each of us were allowed a small glass of beer with this fresh bread and butter, and we used to have a feast of these crabs. And that was a very delightful way of spending an afternoon. When we were down at Bondi, at the Wellington Street Bondi, which was a later place, we had living next to us Mrs. Lindsay, the wife of the artist. They were separated at the time and she was living with another fellow, and they used to have quite gay parties in their backyard. And to give them the privacy of that, they had 6 feet paling fences around the area. They added another 4 feet to that, and they used to go chokers on there. So of course, at the end of the season, the choco vines died off, and they left this horrible dried mass on the thing. So Mrs. Lindsay got myself and a couple of my friends to go in there and pull this down. And while we were pulling this down, we're clearing it away from the bottom of the fence where the roots were, we came across a red box. And it was sealed up with wax, because kids' curiosity, what's this? And when we opened it up, we found that in it was a revolver and blank ammunition. Now, being the Lindsay family, they had a great following from the theatrical trade, and this was a revolver that they used in stage plays, and it was blanked off in the end so that you couldn't use it with live ammunition, but of course the blanks gave the full effect for the stage work. Well, we were naughty boys. We thought we couldn't give this back, we could have fun with this. And one of the things we did was to take these cartridges, and there was an iron railing went over an underground sewage drain of that area, and we got these things, and with rocks we'd hit them until they went bang. Now, I've often thought since then that we were very lucky. When the thing exploded, the pieces of the case flew in the right directions. It would have been a very easy thing for it to lose the sight of an eye in that time. So even though the depression was in full swing at that time, we still managed to get a lot of fun out of it. On another occasion, Mrs. Lindsay called me over to the corner of the fence and asked me if I would ask my mother if I could go up to the local grocer's and gather her groceries for her. And she said, when you get them, come around the back of my place and I'll take them at the back door. So I went up and I got the groceries for Mrs. Lindsay and came round and knocked on the back door. Mrs. Lindsay duly appeared, and she is dressed in a dressing gown with a 2-inch mesh and nothing underneath it. I'd never seen my mother in a nightdress, let alone a woman in practically naked state, and I'm given to understand that I stood there with the groceries in my hand and my eyes left wide open. You can imagine. And that was my first introduction to the opposite sex. Yes, it was rather amusing. As the years went on, I was just on 14, I got a job as McSimmons, and in Sydney they were a big sports organisation. They used to do repairs to sporting equipment, and I was apprenticed as a gunsmith down there. While I was at McSimmons, and by this time I think I'd reached the tender age of 16 years, I found that there was such a thing as the citizen military forces. And as the pay at McSimmons in those days was 15 shillings a week, that's what, 30 cents to 15 shilling? $1.50, today's currency. And I decided that I've also found out that the CMF paid you for attending at parades on a fortnightly basis, and then you also had a 10-day camp once a year for which you got paid for the military rate for your rank of that day. And I thought, now this is a good source of extra money. So I joined, and I joined the 17th Battalion North Sydney Regiment at that stage, and they had use of armourers, so I was duly sent to an armourer's course, and another chap and myself happened to top the course, and we were approached by one of the instructors, who was also a civilian with the defence group, if we would like to join the defence group as armourers. The CMF, it was a good thing to belong to. You learned a lot, you learned to mix with individuals, you learned the ways of the army, the way that affected your civil life and this sort of thing. And I think one of the most interesting parts of that was that in 1938 we went down to, the whole unit went down to Woonona on the south coast, and we did a 10-day camp down there. Now by this time I began to realise that perhaps my intentions in joining the CMF were not so much patriotic to the country but monetary oriented. And at the end of that camp, to get the pay from that was quite a handy little sum to have at that stage. And then of course the time came when the war broke out. By this time I had married, and I had a daughter, and the thoughts went through my mind, you know, the war's broken out, I want to go to that, but how do I look after the security of the children? And all of this depended upon the rank at which I could join the military, the permanent forces. So I set off to let me go back to the beginning. The war was declared, and first of all the CMF called me up, and as a sergeant I was given a platoon and told that we were encamped down near the quarantine station at Manly, and were then given an area from the quarantine to Ferry Bower on Manly Beach to patrol. Now in the Ferry Bower area we had a number of machine gun posts down there, and these were ready for immediate occupation by the military once the enemy was sighted off Bondi Beach. These machine gun posts were rather an attraction to trysting couples, and we found that approaching these had to be done with a great deal of discretion. We were usually whistling, talking loudly, or anything to let our presence be known, and even so, some of the sights were rather interesting.